Good day, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Executive Insights from Shipping and Freight Resource. I'm happy to have Mr. Fraser Robinson, founder and CEO of Beacon, today with us. Good day and welcome, Fraser.
Good day, Harry. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little about yourself, the background, and what led to Beacon as we know it today?
Sure. So I've spent the majority of my career in tech or tech-enabled businesses. I've been in B2C businesses, online travel. I've been in B2B data businesses. Prior to Beacon, I was with Uber, and I was very much involved in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa business for Uber. In sort of the high growth years, it was the first time I'd ever really been involved with a tech business that touched the physically moving things in the world, if you will. Much of the tech I'd been involved with was more e-commerce related, I suppose, intangible things. So Uber really opened my eyes to the impact that technology could have on the physical world, the moving parts, if you will. Some would even argue that Uber is sort of a logistics company. It's just moving people around, but then got into food and Uber Freight, which is obviously a logistics based marketplace that Uber is involved with. So I've been in tech for most of my career, most recently in Uber. And, I think it was really that exposure to Uber and the problems that Uber's solving that for me led the path to doing something closer to supply chain. So it felt like a natural progression from a tech perspective.
It seems so. It seems like a nice segue. What is the core mission that is driving your efforts in enhancing supply chain visibility?
So there's really two things I think that we're excited about and that we're interested in. First of all, technology has the ability to transform businesses small and large, and the supply chain is obviously very large, and there are a huge amount of inefficiencies in it. And so it feels like an area where there's sufficient fragmentation, sufficient inefficiency, and plenty of businesses that seem to be flying blind or just don't have enough insight into what's actually happening with their products. So I think that's one aspect of it, is that, how can data, how can information improve how businesses operate? But there's also a second component to us that's important, which is technology is often or has in the past often benefited larger businesses first, enterprise businesses that have huge budgets and resource and are able to sort of have a head start, I guess, on smaller businesses. So another component of our business is to try and create technology that helps improve supply chains, not just for the big companies, but also empowering and enabling these smaller businesses, these hyper-growth businesses, even startups, empowering them with some of the technology that historically has been the sole preserve of the enterprise. So that's a sort of second vector, I suppose, of our mission, if you will, is to empower every business, not just the rich and big ones.
Good. Recently, you released a report on the supply chain visibility capabilities. And one of the critical themes that I noticed in that report is about collaboration. So how, in your world, how does Beacon facilitate better collaboration and connectivity between the clients and the various players in supply chain?
Definitely, thank you. It's a great question, and actually collaboration. So it is the very heart of what Beacon is doing. I think visibility has been the initial building block. People need to have access to the data, to the information about their supply chains, which historically has been very siloed. So, phase one for us was to really sort of start to organize that data and that information into a usable fashion. But, where many businesses stop is there. They stop there. Let's get all the data in one place and make it accessible to a couple of people. And let's just give a few people logins so that a couple of people can really have access to it. But this doesn't solve the biggest problem of all in supply chain, which is how incredibly fragmented they are. And you have disparate actors and stakeholders all over the world, often in different businesses, hauliers, forwarders, warehouse teams, planners, suppliers, agents, all these different actors, all of whom are collaborating with a single goal, often around the same shipment or the same goods or the same purchase order. So organizing the data on its own isn't enough. It's how do you then build on top of that data source a way for all of those different actors or stakeholders to work more effectively together. And people don't want another login to another platform. That's just not the way to solve that problem. And one of the wonderful things that cloud computing has done for the world is really affect these collaboration solutions in many other spaces. Take Google Docs, wonderful example of how you take the original Microsoft Word document concept and you say, let's just put the document online and let everyone who needs to read the document go to the document. Same thing with products like, I don't know if you're familiar with products like Miro or Figma, which are sort of more in the design space or the whiteboarding space. Let's create places, custom places where teams can get together, all look at the same thing, and all talk to each other in that place, whether with Slack or with comments or chat or whatever it happens to be. And what we had observed, that this piece was just sort of missing really in supply chain. We hadn't really seen anyone take that concept, that Google Docs, Miro, Figma, Jira concept, and really apply it to supply chain, but built on top of all the data that's feeding into the platform. And so that's really what we've done and what we have been doing. And it's a very different way for people to access and use all the data that we've organized and accumulated that actually means that everyone can use it and everyone can communicate better and just work much more efficiently. So this collaboration theme really is the theme of Beacon.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a wrapper around the fundamental data set that we've had to build first, which is, where's my stuff?
Miro and Jira are very great examples of collaboration. I'm glad Beacon is going that route as well. The report also mentioned about the management of financial risks in terms of disruptions and delays and how that impacts. How do you see that from Beacon's perspective?
Yeah, so there are two component parts here that I'd use to answer the question. And this is how we think about our own product. When you have a real-time supply chain collaboration platform like Beacons, there are two things you can do. First of all, you have at your fingertips real-time information as to what's happening right now. So the operational live use case, which is things are on the water, things are in the air, things have been delayed, things are changing. What can we do to adapt in real time to resolve a particular exception or a problem? So that could be shipments are delayed, shipments have rolled, hauliers aren't available, your detention and demurrage is ticking, and time is increasing. All of these pieces of information, the sooner you know these things are happening, the sooner you can do something about them. And that usually means one of two things, either saving money, whether it's by calling out a D&D charge, ensuring a haulier knows the right time to do, reducing fines because of delays, or even, quite frankly, just making sure customers, your end, the recipient of your goods, are happy and they know what's going on. So your customer satisfaction. So there's a whole load of financial benefits that live in the real-time live use case of data. Then what you've got that sits next to that, which also lives in our platform, is you have the benefit of all the historical data, because the minute the live data is done, it becomes archived. And this is where a wealth of information lives for the planning stage of your supply chain. let's go back and revisit actually how long does it take for this shipment to get from here to here? How on time is this? Which carriers are most efficient? Which ones cause us to roll more? Which suppliers are most timely with their cargo ready dates? And so on and so on. So the accumulation of the archive of the historical data is a gold mine of information for better planning looking forward, which is where I would argue enormous savings can be found, probably even more than in the live use case, which is much more responsive and reactive. Whereas in the planning use case, having that data available, highly structured at your fingertips just means you can plan that much better. And there are countless cost savings that live in there as well.
And I would assume this is all the more important for the likes of small businesses, which you mentioned earlier as well. And how accessible is this beacon to small businesses?
Yeah, so we've again, so per my earlier point about, one of our core principles, I suppose, is a product that can be used by businesses of any size. It's not just about can be used, it's can afford to use. And so we've built our product very much with price in mind. It's designed, one, to be highly affordable. I mean, I think our starting price per month is about $199 a month. I mean, so it really is an entry-level price that should be acceptable to most businesses that are serious about what they're doing. And secondly, it's been designed in what in the tech world we call with a product-led mindset, so product-led growth mindset, which means it's really built to be very self-service, very user-friendly, very easy to get up and running. You don't need to integrate with your ERP system to get up and running. You don't need a tech team, call it no code, low code, whatever you want to call it. It's designed for the individual who's not super tech savvy, who can be up and running in a matter of minutes, very affordably. So it's really designed very much with that sort of mindset in place, rather than the kind of big enterprise, expensive integration you need tech resource to make useful. It's just not our approach to our product, which as a result means you just get more businesses using it. That means they get using it quickly, and value gets distributed much faster.
And do you believe the capability of, say, for example, one of your core capabilities is tracking containers? Is that going to fundamentally change how SMEs can handle their business? How they're able to handle their day-to-day operations?
Yeah, I think it is for a number of reasons. If you remember that the collaboration theme really sits front and center here, if you're a small business, let's say you only, I don't know, maybe you only move a container a month, if that, the tracking use case is less valuable. Like, sure, you can go to Maersk.com or wherever and log in and have a look to see where your one container is. I think that the tracking piece is sort of a slice of the value proposition here. Most small businesses, even that have low volumes, what they do have is they're incredibly time poor. And those teams are wearing many hats. That they're not dedicated solely to supply chain and logistics. They probably have 10 other jobs as well, because you're a small business and everyone is doing everything. So when we talk about a supply chain collaboration platform, it's a place where you can communicate with your manufacturers and your hauliers and any agents you have. It's a place where all of your documentation can live in one place, associated with the shipments that you've got. You can collaborate very soon, next month, in fact, around orders before you've even got a container or an airway bill associated with it. So whether you're a small business or a large business, the problems and the use case that you experience are different, but there's a lot of value for everyone to participate in this, because it's not solely about tracking the thing. That's just a piece of the equation. And I would argue not even the most important piece.
Sure. And talking about value, a lot of the customers, what I've seen as well, are struggling to track sustainability and the decarbonization efforts and carbon emissions and those kind of things, which has become an important metric in our industry. What is how does Beacon help in this area? How does Beacon assist me here?
Great. So obviously, I don't need to explain to anyone the importance of, carbon emissions tracking, scope 3 emissions being sort of the area that transportation inhabits in terms of carbon reporting and so on. I think as we've expanded our business and listened to our customers and the problems that they have, what we've observed is because Beacon is a platform that sits on the sort of the shipper's the shipper side of the equation, right? It really goes with you anywhere you go. So whichever carrier or forwarder or mode you work with, you could work with multiple, it all flows through Beacon. And we kept hearing concerns from our customers, which are saying, I'm getting carbon reporting now from my carrier or my forwarder, but I've got multiple carriers and multiple forwarders, and I'm kind of getting a lot of different reports. They're all kind of calculated differently, and I don't really know how to bring them all together into one cohesive carbon emissions report, which, let's face it, is what the end shipper really wants. They want to be able to see their air, their ocean, their road, all these things calculated and measured in a consistent way and in one place. So you get this problem where that there's still sufficient fuzziness in the world that lots of businesses don't know what's the right way to calculate emissions, which formula are we using. It's just a lot of movement. So our customers have started to look to us and say, if all of my transportation is flowing through Beacon, and we're tracking all of those movements in real time, we are also storing all of that information, which means that we can apply, and we partner with a third party who does the actual carbon emissions calculations. But what it means is you can have one set of reports for all of your modes globally in one place, which is not only a massive time saver, it's also much more transparent and consumable at a board level. It just means you've got a very consistent, consolidated view of all of your transportation emissions, which sit within scope 3, which is a huge percentage of this ESG reporting initiative. So I think that there are huge benefits, and I think that are very clear to all, of having a single consistent source of reporting for all of your transportation emissions. Just makes much more sense, and then you can actually do something about it.
That's quite impressive, Fraser. I must say, because it is very important, and it has become very important in our industry. And are there any new developments or features that you're particularly excited about that Beacon is about to do, or in the pipeline? Are there anything that is coming up?
Definitely. So we've got some really exciting things coming in the second half of this year, actually even sooner. One of them I alluded to earlier, which is Beacon is not just about tracking, and it's not just about collaboration around tracking. We will soon be launching order visibility as well, so that orders and live shipments in a fully connected way can now be collaborated around in the same way as they currently are on Beacon. We have this product called Live Boards. That's just the fundamental principle of how Beacon works. It's like a Miro board or a Google Doc or a Jira and Figma and so on. It allows teams to collaborate around a single custom view of things. And you have multiple different boards in the system. And we're putting orders into that framework as well. This allows teams to start to collaborate together before you even have a container number or an airway bill or something to track in the first place, because there's so much work and collaboration that needs to happen to prepare for shipments. And quite frankly, just to talk to suppliers or agents or forwarders or what have you in one place around the order, then the shipments kind of get added later. So it will just move us upstream. And it means that our users will be able to collaborate and use Beacon, not just around the shipments themselves, but in all those incredibly important stages that precede the actual shipment itself. So we're really moving upstream with our collaboration product, which will open the door to much more engagement from other third parties. And remember, people that can collaborate together in a live board, it's not limited to people in your company. It's whoever you want to invite in that page to share. So it's anyone. You can invite your supplier to collaborate around a board. So I think this order visibility is really exciting. And then we've got some really exciting things cooking on the automation side of things, because now that we're really starting to build up this data set for our customers, it opens up doors for us to start making recommendations to our customers around, actually, how do you optimize this? And, you might want to consider using this carrier, not that carrier next time, because, they have a track record of being more on time, or whatever it happens to be. So I think automation is definitely going to be a theme for us in H2.
Lovely to hear that, and looking forward to seeing some of that. Just in closing, what would you suggest, or what would your advice be to some of the companies who are looking to improve their supply chain visibility and efficiency? What is the best route for them to go?
It is incredibly daunting for any business when the subject of digitization comes up. And it doesn't matter if you're in supply chain or marketing or sales or whichever area you're in, digitization has to happen. And digitization really at its very core in a business begins with, you've got to start finding a way to get the data organized and in the right place. That's the fundamental building block of any digitization. Otherwise, there's nothing to digitize. You've got to have the data is the building block. And as I talk to many businesses we work with, there's a lot of deer in the headlights, wide-eyed, staring into the abyss. Oh my God, this is insurmountable. Like, I don't know where to begin with my supply chain and transforming it and digitizing it and all these things. What I would say to that is, you've got to slice it down and start with the data itself. And, a platform like Beacon, go with these very simple, like Beacon, quite frankly, platforms. It's surprisingly easy to start building that data set. You start with tracking, for example. If you start working with, again, a platform like Beacon, you are instantly, overnight, you've begun the journey of building the data set, and then it goes from there. But sometimes it's taking those first couple of steps that are hardest. You just don't know where to begin. Well, one of those places in supply chain is to begin with tracking, because you can do it. It's relatively simple. It's very simple to do, to get up and running. And then once that door is open, you start to see where the progression is, and you can build on top of that. Sometimes it's just opening that first door or making that first step that's really hard. It's just not as scary as people think. Change management, all this stuff doesn't actually have to be that scary. Just get started with tracking with these collaboration platform like Beacon, and then the doors will start to open more naturally. It's not as hard as people think. It really isn't.
Very sage advice, I must say. And yes, digitalization and digitization, digital transformation, all these terms are quite daunting for many customers, but I'm glad that companies like Beacon are around to help customers go through these with your help and advance to the next level.
Fraser, don't try and do it all at once.
Yes,
don't try and do it. Just slice it down.
Absolutely.
Get started.
Absolutely. Well, Fraser, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for joining Shipping and Freight Resources Executive Insights. It's been a pleasure having you, and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.